Picture this. A landscape where the thunderous roar of rockets leaving European soil is no longer the exclusive domain of legacy aerospace giants, but instead belongs to a new breed of ambitious startups. Each launch is fueled by the power of artificial intelligence, the daring of young engineers, and the hopes of a continent eager to reclaim its place among the stars. This vision, once dismissed as science fiction, is now closer than ever to becoming reality. The European Space Agency, or ESA, is making a bold wager, committing more than €169 million to boost a fresh wave of launch challengers. But can these newcomers truly disrupt a system painstakingly built over half a century? Or is Europe risking its cosmic future by placing its bets on untested hands, while global competition intensifies every year? To understand what's at stake, let's wind the clock back 50 years. On a summer day in mid-July 1975, a trio of American astronauts aboard an Apollo spacecraft blasted off from the sun-drenched coast of Florida. At almost the same moment, two Soviet cosmonauts soared skyward from the steppes of Kazakhstan, riding a Soyuz rocket into the blue. 2 days later, these rival crews met in orbit, their capsules docking in a historic maneuver. The hatch opened, hands were shaken, and a shared meal unfolded in the fragile calm of microgravity. This was more than a technical feat. It was a symbol of possibility, an improbable handshake in the chill silence above Earth. In an era shadowed by the Cold War, it marked the dawn of international partnership in space, which would, decades later, lay the groundwork for the International Space Station. For more than 20 years, the International Space Station has orbited as a testament to collaboration, compromise, and competition. Astronauts from dozens of nations have lived and worked there, performing experiments that have reshaped our understanding of biology, physics, and even the origins of life. The station became a political bridge, outlasting earthly tensions. But this era is drawing to a close. By the year 2030, the International Space Station is set to be decommissioned, its modules retired, and its partnerships so long the backbone of low Earth orbit left in question. What comes next is unknown. Will new alliances form, or will the vacuum of cooperation be filled by national rivalries and corporate ambitions? The global space race of today is a very different animal from the one that sent Neil Armstrong to the moon. Now, private giants such as SpaceX have rewritten the rules, with reusable boosters that dramatically lower the cost per launch and on-site propellant production that streamlines the entire process. The economics of reaching orbit have shifted. Elon Musk once declared that making fuel at the launch pad could eliminate the need for over 200 tanker trucks of liquid nitrogen and oxygen for every launch. At SpaceX's Starbase in Texas, this concept is becoming reality. The company has secured approvals to build vast air separation facilities, aiming to make rocket launches as regular as airline departures. Meanwhile, China's ambitions are no less audacious. The construction of the Long March 10 launch tower is nearly complete, a clear signal of Beijing's intent to land taikonauts, the Chinese word for astronauts, on the moon before the close of this decade. With sweeping investments in lunar infrastructure, China is racing to plant its flag on the lunar surface, eyeing resources and prestige in equal measure. Elsewhere in Asia, South Korea's InnoSpace has made headlines by qualifying the second stage of its Hanbit nanorocket, a significant milestone that marks the nation's commercial entry into the space arena. Japan's Interstellar Technologies is pushing the boundaries with its Zero rocket, although delays have pushed its debut flight out to the year 2027. Russia, too, remains a force. Just recently, it celebrated the 50th anniversary of the Apollo-Soyuz handshake by launching a Progress supply ship to the International Space Station atop a Soyuz 2.1A rocket. American rivals are not standing still either. United Launch Alliance, a joint venture between Boeing and Lockheed Martin, is advancing its Vulcan rocket program, stacking boosters at Cape Canaveral in anticipation of its first post-certification flight. There is an unmistakable sense that the world is rearming for a new era of cosmic competition, one in which national pride, technological prowess, and economic opportunity all collide. Amid this tumult, Europe faces a crossroads, a moment of existential choice. For decades, the continent's access to space has depended on a single company, Arianespace. Born in the late 1970s, the Ariane program was itself a product of political resolve and collective ambition, breaking the American-Soviet duopoly and providing Europe with its own route to orbit. The Ariane rockets have launched everything from weather satellites to interplanetary probes, becoming symbols of European ingenuity. But the world has changed. The costs of launch have plummeted in the United States and China, while European options have stagnated. Satellite makers and national governments now face painful delays and soaring prices. With the International Space Station era ending and private space stations, lunar bases, and asteroid mining on the horizon, the lack of affordable, reliable European launch options could leave the continent on the sidelines. The lesson is clear. Those who control access to space shape the future, not just of science, but of commerce, climate monitoring, defense, and even national identity. Recognizing this, the European Space Agency has launched an audacious experiment, the European Launcher Challenge. 5 startups have been handpicked: Isar Aerospace, Maya Space, Rocket Factory Augsburg, PLD Space, and Orbex. The prize: a portion of €169 million in funding and a chance to break Arianespace's monopoly. The goal is simple but radical: foster a new generation of launch providers, drive down costs, and ignite a renaissance of innovation. But there is a catch. None of these companies is guaranteed a contract, let alone funding. The next few months will be a tense negotiation with European governments, culminating in the ESA's Ministerial Council in November, where the agency's budget for the coming years will be set. Only then will binding agreements be signed. For these startups, time is of the essence. Every month lost is a month in which American, Chinese, or even Russian rivals pull further ahead. Let's take a closer look at these challengers. Isar Aerospace, based in Germany, has so far made it the furthest down the launch pad. Earlier this year, their Spectrum rocket attempted its maiden flight from Norway. The world watched as the vehicle roared skyward, only to see it fail mere moments after liftoff. The disappointment was palpable, but the attempt itself was a milestone, marking the first time in years that a European startup has reached this stage. Rocket Factory Augsburg, also German, is racing to complete its own launch vehicle. Maya Space, a spin-off from the French aerospace giant Ariane Group, brings industrial expertise but faces the challenge of pivoting from tradition to startup agility. Spain's PLD Space has been quietly testing suborbital rockets, aiming to carve out a niche in small satellite launches. And then there is Orbex, a UK-based company betting on environmentally friendly, reusable rockets powered by biopropane. A bold play in an industry not known for its green credentials. Each of these companies is taking a different approach, but all face a daunting gauntlet. The cost of developing a large, reusable launch vehicle now exceeds $1 billion, according to Rudenko of Aspire Space, a sum that dwarfs the resources of most European startups. Partnerships, public-private cooperation, and the integration of artificial intelligence are no longer optional. They are essential. In Dubai, Aspire Space and LEP-71 are harnessing AI-driven design to halve engine development times, showing how digital tools can accelerate progress once measured in decades. It's worth noting that the global appetite for launch services is exploding. The satellite industry alone is projected to be worth hundreds of billions of euros in the coming decades. From global internet constellations to climate monitoring and defense, demand for reliable, cost-effective access to orbit has never been higher. American firms are already capturing a lion's share of this market. SpaceX, for instance, routinely launches dozens of missions a year, often carrying payloads for customers from every continent. China's state-owned contractors are not far behind, with plans for mega-constellations and lunar sample missions that would have seemed unthinkable a generation ago. What is truly at stake for Europe is not just business or prestige, but sovereignty, security, and the ability to shape its own destiny in the new space age. If these 5 startups succeed, the payoff could be enormous. Imagine a scenario where rockets built in Munich, Madrid, or the Scottish Highlands roar into orbit every month, ferrying satellites for telecom giants, climate researchers, and defense ministries, not just in Europe, but for clients worldwide. Such a renaissance could spark new industries, create thousands of high-tech jobs, and restore a sense of pride in European science and engineering. But the risks are every bit as real. Rocketry remains one of humanity's most unforgiving pursuits. Billions of euros can vanish in seconds when a launch fails. Delays and technical setbacks are the norm, not the exception. Even as Isar Aerospace leads the pack, its first orbital attempt ended in failure, underscoring the immense difficulty of this challenge. With government funding uncertain until at least November, the pressure is mounting. If these startups stumble, Europe could face a bleak gap, forced to buy launch services from American or Chinese providers, or even from Russia, an uncomfortable prospect in a world of shifting alliances and geopolitical tension. This is not a problem confined to boardrooms or government agencies. The consequences ripple outward, touching everything from the smartphones in our pockets to the satellites that monitor climate change, track wildfires, and enable disaster response. Europe's ability to independently design, build, and launch its own hardware is a pillar of its technological and strategic autonomy. Losing that capability would not only be a blow to its prestige, but could have far-reaching implications for its economy, security, and influence on the world stage. What does all this mean for you, the viewer? First, it's a reminder that the technologies shaping our future often emerge from the most unlikely corners. Decades ago, few would have wagered that a handful of startups could challenge government-backed monopolies in the ultimate high-stakes industry. Today, private innovation is not just disrupting aerospace. It is redefining who gets a seat at the table in the global space race. For entrepreneurs and investors, Europe's gamble is a call to look beyond borders and beyond tradition. The new space economy is not only about rockets. It touches every sector: data, communications, agriculture, remote sensing, and even artificial intelligence-driven design. Just as Dubai's Aspire Space is leveraging AI to cut development times in half, the next big breakthrough in any industry could come from unexpected collaborations or disruptive technologies. Investors who spot these trends early may find themselves at the ground floor of the next trillion-euro industry. For students and young professionals dreaming of a career in space, this is an unprecedented moment. Universities and technical institutes across Europe are seeing surges in aerospace enrollment. Hackathons, student rocketry clubs, and competitions are spawning the next generation of engineers and mission planners. The doors are opening wider than ever before them. The message is clear. If you are willing to learn, adapt, and take risks, the sky, quite literally, is no longer the limit. And for the broader public, this drama is a lesson in resilience and risk-taking. Whether these startups soar or stumble, their journey is a real-world experiment in how societies allocate resources, balance risk and reward, and chase dreams that stretch the boundaries of the possible. It is a vivid reminder that progress is never guaranteed. It must be earned, tested, and sometimes fought for. Let's not forget the lessons of history. Nearly 50 years ago, Europe faced a similar inflection point. The Ariane program was a leap of faith, born from political will and a desire for independence. Against the odds, it succeeded, breaking the American and Russian grip on access to space. Today, the stakes are even higher, and the race is more open. The finish line is far from clear, but the competitors are more diverse, more innovative, and more global than ever before. Expert voices echo both optimism and caution. Kim Soo-jong, CEO of InnoSpace, recently emphasized that the successful qualification of the Handbit nanorocket's second stage marks a significant step toward commercial launch capability. Rudenko of Aspire Space warns that the billion-dollar barrier for reusable rockets cannot be crossed without massive public and private support. Elon Musk's vision of regular, low-cost launches is inspiring a new generation of engineers, but even SpaceX's path was littered with failures before it achieved success. The environmental impact of the new space race is also drawing scrutiny. As the number of launches increases, so too do concerns about orbital debris, atmospheric pollution, and the sustainability of space operations. European startups like Orbex are responding with green propellants and reusable designs, but the challenge is immense. The future of space exploration will depend not only on technological prowess, but on responsible stewardship of the final frontier. Looking ahead, several scenarios could emerge. In the best-case world, at least one or two of these European newcomers, perhaps Izar Aerospace or Rocket Factory Augsburg, achieve reliable, affordable launches. This could trigger a wave of satellite deployments, foster new industries, and restore European leadership in global science and technology. Imagine European rockets launching not just European payloads, but those from Africa, Asia, and the Americas, making Europe a global hub for access to orbit. But there is a darker scenario as well. If technical, financial, or political obstacles prove insurmountable, Europe could be sidelined for years, left to watch as American, Chinese, and Russian providers dominate the skies. The continent would be forced to rely on others for critical services, undermining its autonomy and influence. The stakes could not be higher. As the International Space Station era ends, the next chapter may be written by those who dare to innovate, who take calculated risks, and who refuse to accept the status quo. The convergence of private startups, Government initiatives and new technologies like artificial intelligence is reshaping the space landscape. Yet with opportunity comes responsibility. The need for international cooperation, ethical standards, and a commitment to sustainability. For all of us, this is a story worth watching. In every failed launch, there is a lesson in perseverance. In every breakthrough, a spark of hope. The journey of Europe's 5 launch challengers is about more than rockets. It is about who we are as a society and what kind of future we want to build among the stars. So, will Europe's investment in these bold newcomers pay off? The answer, for now, remains uncertain. Yet one thing is clear. Europe is no longer content to rest on tradition. But by welcoming startups into the fold, the continent is inviting both the risk of failure and the promise of spectacular success. The next few years will reveal whether these pioneers can transform vision into reality, or whether Europe's cosmic ambitions will remain grounded. Here's a little-known fact. The last time Europe faced such a pivotal moment in access to space, the Ariane program changed the course of history. Today, the race is more open than ever before, and the outcome will be decided not just by established powers, but by the boldness of new entrants and the vision of those who support them. If you found this story as thrilling as we did, don't forget to hit like, subscribe for more deep dives into global technology and economics, and tell us in the comments, which startup would you bet on to break Europe's launch monopoly? And stay tuned for our next episode, where we'll reveal how artificial intelligence is secretly revolutionizing rocket design.